Hey guys, this is Jocelyn from Fantasia Elegance with another wire wrap jewelry tutorial for you. I'm trying to work my way through some of the requested tutorials I've been getting, so today I'll be doing this wire wrapped Fleur de Lis design. I'll be showing you how to do the pendant shown here. Of course, this would work equally well for earrings. You would simply use a little bit less wire and make it smaller, but for the sake of it being large enough for you to see what I'm doing, I'll be going with the pendant. So let's go ahead and look at some of the materials you'll be needing. It's really quite simple. You only need two types of wire. You're going to need 18 gauge dead soft wire. You'll need one piece that's 5 inches long, one piece that's 4 inches, and you'll also want some 20 gauge twisted wire. You could use just regular round 20 gauge wire, but I prefer the twisted look. And if you don't have any pre-twisted wire, you can make this by actually using 24 gauge, 2 strands, and twisting it together. So for the twisted wire, you want, I think, 6.5 inches. Yes, 6.5 inches. And if you're making this yourself, you would use about 2 7-inch strands of 24 gauge and just go ahead and twist that together. So 6.5 inches of the twisted 20 gauge, a 5-inch piece of 18 gauge, and a 4-inch piece of 18 gauge. So to start out, we're going to take the longer piece and we're going to make this lower portion and the top swirls. So our first step in doing that is going to be to make a U-shaped bend here, making sure I get the ends even. We're just going to bend this straight in half and then crimp the end using chain nose pliers. And then you're going to open that back up slightly. You can use some round nose pliers to help you with this. There we go. And because you want it to have a kind of leaf shape, I'm going to grip right at the bottom of the V here and bend each side out slightly. And then moving up a little bit, we're going to bend them back in. And you're going to make this leaf shape fairly small, and you want the ends to be going straight out. Just like so. And then we're going to curve each of these ends down. So let me just grip that with my round nose pliers right at the end here. And we're going to spiral this all the way around until it's touching itself. And then you're just going to go ahead and continue spiraling this around. You want it to be fairly tight. And do the same thing on the other side. Alright, so we have a good rough start to our lower piece there. We're going to move on to the upper piece. We're going to do this really the same way, except you'll be making the initial petal shape larger and the swirls smaller. So taking my 4-inch piece of 18 gauge wire, I'm going to do the exact same thing, bending it right in half, and then crimping it with my chain nose pliers. And again, we're going to curve the ends around for that nice leaf or petal shape. And again, on this one you want the ends to be angling straight down, just like that. And you can go ahead and test how this is going to fit in by putting it right inside of your other piece right here. If I can get it where you can see what we're doing here. And you want this space to be small as possible, so basically having everything touching just like that. And then you can see we're going to take these ends and curve them up so that they're just meeting that swirl, just like that. So let's go back to our top piece here and do the same thing, curving these ends in. And once again, we're going to test this on out. And at this point you may need to make slight adjustments. I'm going to actually bring these down and out ever so slightly and curve the upper swirls in a little bit more. Just like that. And we'll do the same thing on the other side, so let me reverse it here. Alright, and I think my shape up here actually needs adjusting a little bit as well. So once you're happy with how your pieces are sitting together, and one tip, you can see here that apparently they hook together even better than I thought. You can see here that we have one side going over the other, and same thing here. And you can match them together so that it lies flat. So you can see I'm putting the side that goes over on top of the side that goes under, and just matching them up right like that. So let's go ahead and take our twisted wire, doing the same thing, bending this right in half, and I'm going to leave a pretty tight space here. I actually want that to be flat across. So now I'm going to fit these together how I want them, and I'm holding it with my thumb right here, and we're going to wrap this piece right around our center X where everything crosses. So I'm going to slide this, see, you might be able to see better if I get these ends out. So we're going to slide this right down just like that. And at this point I'm going to transition my thumb so it's still holding everything together, except now it's also on top of that U shape we had in our twisted wire, making sure everything's snug. And I'm going to cross these two wires over, pulling them tight. And if you need some help tightening those up, you can use your chain nose pliers just to make sure that they're lying as close as possible to the swirl shapes you're binding together. And then you're just going to continue wrapping them around that center space. You can come through those swirls here if you need to, make it a little bit easier. And you want each wrap to be as snug as possible. So I'm doing about 2 or 3 wraps with the lower one, then I'm going to switch and do the same thing with the upper one. And once you've wrapped that around a few times, what I'm actually going to do is head to the back here and cross it back over. So we're going to wrap a few more times on top of the wraps we've already made to kind of build that area up and make it look a little bit more chunky. Alright, I think at this point we can probably snip off one of these threads. So I'm at the back of the piece and I'm going to cut it off right at the V shape right here. And that will enable me to have a little spot to tuck these ends in. Actually, I think I'm going to need to take off a little bit more than I did, just to make sure it's really snug. So I'm very simply tightening up that side and tucking in those two ends we had. Well, I guess it's one end, but two wires twisted together. Okay, and I think I can fit a few more wraps in here with this one. So going back to the front to see how it's looking. I think at this point I'm going to take this piece around to the back and do the same thing to finish it off. So making sure it's nice and tight. I'm going to snip it right at the V shape there and tighten down our loose end. So there we go. We're basically done now. If you wished, you could hammer this out, of course avoiding the center part, to give it a more widened out and flattened look. You certainly wouldn't have to. And what I did for this one is to make a bail for the top to turn it into a pendant. Obviously, if you're making these smaller for earrings, you would just go ahead and put your ear hook right on the top. But if you want to make a bail like this, I have done a tutorial on how to make this exact bail. You can click right here to get there and see a video on making the perfect bail for this pendant. One tip that you might want to consider if you were having trouble getting the central wrapping tight enough and you want to add a little bit more stability to your piece, you could take a smaller gauge of wire, like 24 or 26, and add some extra wrapping right here and here, or you could even put a few wraps around the points here where these two wires are right next to each other. But again, as long as you get this center wrap nice and tight, you shouldn't run into any problems. And just in case you need to see that link to make the bail if you're doing a pendant, you can click right here again for that video. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and found it helpful. Please do take a moment to check out my Etsy shop and Facebook page. The links are in the description below. And of course, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for future wire wrap jewelry tutorials. You're also welcome to leave comments if you need some help with this design or just have ideas for future projects you might like me to cover. So as always, thank you for watching and happy crafting!